Good evening. We'll go on the record. The commission will come to order. Today is February the 18th, 2020. We are currently in Seaside, California. I am Gerald F. Kelly, and I am the administrative law judge assigned to this proceeding. Commissioner Sharoma is with us this evening, and she will address you shortly. I've had various discussions with the commissioner and her staff regarding this proceeding. I will continue to have discussions with her office as this matter progresses. This is the time and place set for the public participation hearing for the application of California American Water Company, or CalAM, in application 19-07004. The application was filed on July 1st, 2019. A pre-hearing conference was conducted in this matter on September 1st, 2019. This application seeks to increase rates for water and/or wastewater services in each of CalAM's divisions and/or districts. CalAM's divisions and/or districts are currently as follows: Northern Division, Central Division, Monterey Wastewater, Los Angeles County Division, Central Division, San Diego County, and Ventura County. In total, the application seeks to increase rates as follows: $25,999,900, or 10.6% in 2021, $9,752,500, or 3.59% in 2022, and $10,754,500, or 3.82% in 2023. CalAM contends that these increases are necessary to support new capital improvements, increased costs such as labor, administrative, and general expenses, and operational and maintenance expenses. There's a handout outside the room when you came in, which goes into specific details about the application and the impacts for your local area. At this time, the commissioner is going to address you. Commissioner Sharoma?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Judge Kelly. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for taking time out of your evening to spend with us. I know that it takes a lot to do that, and we'll look forward to hearing your comments on the application. So I'm very pleased to join Judge Kelly this evening. I've been briefed on the rich history of the issues surrounding the available water supply in the Seaside and Monterey area, and I appreciate the keen interest that any of us as customers and ratepayers would have on this critical resource. I'm glad I can be here in person with you this evening, and also my Chief of Staff, Juan Tesfaye, is here as well to listen to your concerns firsthand. We have our court reporter here, making sure that all of your comments are documented and taken into a transcript. I can also understand that really there are no issues that are too big or small as we delve into the application from CalAM for some of the more what we would call customary items that go into a general rate case. Things like capital investment, increased operating expenses, and CalAM's proposed changes to the way it amortizes its water revenue. This is a lot of jargon, okay, but this is what it's called. The Water Revenue Adjustment Mechanism, modified cost balancing accounts, and also CalAM's proposal for a high-cost fund for its wastewater customers. Again, these are the terminologies that are used for these kinds of general rate cases. So we'll be investigating these proposals and each of CalAM's requests through fact-based approach in our proceeding, and before we reach a proposed decision that would be voted on by the full commission, we are very mindful of the impacts that the proposals could have on your water bills. And lastly, I know that on many folks' minds over the past few years has been the desalinization project and the various disputes. And I think if you've participated in these kind of proceedings before, you know that for commissioners there are all sorts of baggy key requirements about how many commissioners can talk about a particular topic or not, ex parte requirements. If any of you are a party to that particular proceeding, which is still open, then there are rules about whether I can be in the room hearing anything about that particular project or not. But Judge Kelly and also my chief of staff will help me navigate that. I've been on the commission now for a year and have been really learning a lot about these water cases, and I assure you that bringing about 20 years of experience, having served on an electric utility board up in Sacramento, which is publicly owned, and numerous rate cases that came before the elected directors up there. So I thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing the presentations and your comments shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Before we start, I just want to give you a brief overview of what the California Public Utilities Commission, or the Commission, or I may call it the CPUC, is and what we do. The Commission is the state agency that regulates privately owned utilities like CalAm that provide essential services such as electric, gas, and water. There are 5 commissioners at the Commission. These 5 commissioners will be the people who vote and decide whether to approve CalAm's request in its application. My role as the assigned judge in this case is to review CalAm's application. Based on the evidence which is presented, I will write a proposed decision for the commissioners to consider. The commissioners will vote to adopt my proposed decision or an alternate decision put forth by a commissioner. Hearings for this proceeding are currently set in San Francisco, California, starting April 20th, 2020, and are scheduled to last for several weeks. It is possible that the parties may settle this proceeding prior to the hearings. If that happens, the Commission will evaluate whether to adopt the proposed settlement agreement or a portion thereof. Currently, there are many parties involved in this proceeding, including CalAm, the Public Advocate's Office of the Public Utilities Commission, Monterey Peninsula Water Management District, Coalition of Peninsula Businesses, Central Coast Coalition of Communities for Wastewater Equity, and the cities of San Marino, Duarte, and Thousand Oaks. We are here today to listen to your comments on CalAm's application for an increase in rates. We want to hear about how CalAm's application will impact you, your family, and your community as a CalAm customer. Your comments will help the Commission gather information to determine whether or not to grant CalAm's application. Currently here today, we have the Public Advisor's Office, and as I mentioned, they are a party in this proceeding. The Public Advocate's Office does not work for the Commission. They are an independent branch of the Commission who work to represent the interest of the ratepayers in proceedings such as this. They do not work for me, nor do they work for the Commissioner. They are an active party in this proceeding, and they will tell you more about what they do when the Public Advocate's Office gives you a brief presentation. Also here today is CalAm. CalAm will give you a brief presentation, and they also brought with them various representatives. If you have specific questions about the application, water quality, or just general questions in general for CalAm, you can speak to them after the public participation hearing is over. Additionally, you may have noticed the table outside, the Public Advisor's Office. If you have questions about the Commission or any questions about how you can participate or how you can submit comments in this proceeding, please speak to the individuals that are sitting outside at the table for the Public Advisor's Office. I just want to go over some basic ground rules. Please remember to try to speak slowly and clearly. The court reporter has the difficult job of taking down everything which is said here today. I know when you get up here, you get a little nervous and you start speaking fast, and I'm the biggest offender of that. And I just gotta always remind myself to kind of slow down. She has to take everything down. Also, please remember to state and spell your name. And also, only one individual can speak at a time. It makes it extremely difficult, if not impossible, for the court reporter to transcribe multiple conversations at the same time. After this hearing is over, the court reporter will prepare a written transcript which will be provided to myself and the 5 commissioners. Additionally, this transcript is available to the public, and if you would like additional information on how you can get a copy of the transcript, please see the Public Advisor's Office outside. Shortly, Cal-Am and the Public Advocate's Office are going to give a presentation to you, briefly just describing what the application is as it relates to Cal-Am, and for the Public Advocate's Office as it relates to their protest that they filed for the application. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and ask Cal-Am if they'd like to give their presentation.
Hello, I'm Catherine Stedman, External Affairs Manager for California American Water. I would like to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend tonight's hearing and participate in this process. Thank you also to the representatives from the California Public Utilities Commission, including Administrative Law Judge Gerald Kelly and Commissioner Genevieve Sharoma, who have come to hear from our customers and learn about the needs of our district. We have several staff members present this evening who are available to respond to customer questions and provide information about our water service after this hearing. Members of our team who are present tonight include Chris Cook, Director of Operations, and Jeff Lynham, Jonathan Morse, and Kathy Hongola Batista from our regulatory team. If customers have specific questions about their bill, they can visit with Anthony Lopez, who has online access to account information. For those interested in lowering their water bill, conserving water is the best way to do that. Anthony can provide information about our conservation programs, including rebates. He also has information on hand about our low-income assistance program for customers who are eligible. California American Water files its rate case with the Commission once every 3 years, and the Commission approves, modifies, or rejects our request. This application is for rates from January 2021 through December of 2023, with rates becoming effective January 1st, 2021. Our request includes proposed revenue increases for the Consolidated Central Division of $2.99 million, or 4.35% in 2021, $2.92 million, or 4.07% in 2022, and $2.48 million, or 3.33% in 2023. If our rate requests were adopted in whole, the average water bill for residential customers in our Monterey Main District would increase by 10.02% in 2021 over rates effective on July 1st, 2019, and increase 4.07% in 2022 and 3.33% in 2023. The average bill in the Central Satellite Service area would decrease by 4.50% in 2021 over rates effective on July 1st, 2019, and increase 3.11% in 2022 and 3.11% in 2023. The average bill in the Chular service area would increase by 2.97% in 2021 over rates effective on July 1st, 2019, and increase 3.11% in 2022 and 3.11% in 2023. The customer notices for our application for this meeting show the total bill increase proposed, inclusive of surcharges. In our application, California American Water has proposed to eliminate certain surcharges, as well as the fifth tier for single and multi-family residential customers, and to reduce the meter charge ratio for customers with large meters. Many of the surcharges in place today result from the progressive nature of regulation in the state and include water conservation, low-income programs, environmental compliance, and water quality standards that exceed federal requirements. In their report on our application, the Public Advocate's Office points out that over the past 5 years, California American Water's costs to run the business have increased only 1.36% annually. While the company is requesting recovery of additional costs in this proceeding, we will continue our focus on efficiency and effective use of capital. I would like to take a moment to highlight what California American Water believes are critical projects and programs for the Central Division. Our request includes more than $60 million over 3 years to fund infrastructure improvements, including annual operations projects and ongoing investment projects, such as the construction of a new well in Carmel Valley, construction of the new Forest Lake Pump Station, rehabilitation and safety improvements to the Delray Oaks Regulating Station, and improvements to the Ambler Park Water Treatment Solids Removal System. In addition, our proposal consists of programs for fire protection upgrades to pump stations and water mains, pump station replacement and rehabilitations, SCADA maintenance and improvements, standby generator improvements, and tank rehabilitation and seismic upgrades. These investments ensure that the water systems that serve our customers are maintained and continue to provide safe, reliable water service and fire protection. For wastewater customers, our request includes a proposed revenue increase of $532,000 or 16% in 2021, $120,000 or 3.13% in 2022, and $129,000 or 3.24% in 2023. If our rate requests were adopted in whole with approval of a high-cost fund, the average bill for residential customers in our Monterey wastewater active system, which includes Indian Springs, Pasadena, Las Palmas, and Carmel Valley Ranch, would decrease by 1.70% in 2021 over rates effective on July 1st, 2019, and increase 3.13% in 2022 and 3.24% in 2023. The average bill for residential customers in our Monterey wastewater passive system, which is made up of Village Greens, White Oaks, Oak Hills, and Spreckles, would increase by 27.20% in 2021 over rates effective on July 1st, 2019, and increase 3.13% in 2022 and 3.24% in 2023. In this proceeding, we are proposing the establishment of a high-cost fund to offset the high monthly cost of active wastewater service in the Central Division. The costs for these systems are expected to increase over time as the facilities are in need of significant investment. The company proposes that all non-low-income California American Water customers, wastewater and water, that are not in the high-cost area have a flat surcharge of 29 cents per month added to their bills to fund and offset the high-cost area. This would reduce the proposed rate base for active system customers by approximately $27 per month and bring the rate to less than double that of the passive system customers. California American Water proposes to invest more than $1.5 million over 3 years in the Monterey wastewater service area. Proposed infrastructure improvements include annual operation projects and ongoing investment projects, such as the replacement of a 600-foot section of the 24-inch gravity main in Spreckles Boulevard and constructing improvements to the Las Palmas moving bed bioreactor process. We believe that the costs requested are necessary so that we can comply with regulations, replace aging facilities, and maintain the high level of service our customers expect. With that, I'm going to turn the meeting back to Administrative Law Judge Kelly for our customers' comments. Please feel free to contact any member of our staff after this hearing if you have additional questions or concerns or issues specific to your water and wastewater service. Thank you again to our customers here tonight and to Administrative Law Judge Kelly and Commissioner Sharoma for allowing me to address this hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Stedman. Public Advocate's Office.
Good evening. My name is Mukunda Dawari. I work for Public Advocate's Office, which is an independent unit within the Commission. We reviewed more than 10,000 pages of the CalAM's documents filed with this application. A team of 4 engineers, 3 analysts, and 3 financial analysts reviewed the application and relevant work papers for over 6 months and issued a report last Friday. You can download the report from Commission's website. We have recommended 2.68% reduction of the revenue requirement compared to the present rate revenue. We will be available if you have any questions after this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Mary Adams.
Good evening, Judge Kelly and Supervisor, or Commissioner, I should say, Sharoma. I'm usually on the other side of the dais, and I can tell you that I do feel a little bit nervous out here. But I just wanted to thank you so much for coming and holding this public hearing locally here in the Monterey District. My name is Mary Adams, and I am the Monterey County Supervisor representing the residents and the business owners within Monterey County's 5th District. Most of the residents of my district are served by the CalAM water system. The overarching concern that I have about having an investor-owned utility as the operator of our local water system in Monterey is that the rate-making process is not transparent. I share the concerns of the Public Advocate's Office that CalAM is proposing not just a base rate, but a complicated and extensive list of surcharges. Monterey County's 5th District has an older population, so I appreciate that the Public Advocate's Office refers to the AARP's report on how utility surcharges can help disguise profiteering by investor-owned utilities. It makes it harder to analyze the true costs of operating the water system. Seniors on fixed incomes and the many low-income residents in my district are already paying an extremely high cost for their water. I continue to be concerned about how the cost of water further impacts the high cost of living here. To me, this is an issue of economic justice. People look around our area and they see the beautiful hotels and the wonderful beaches and the golf courses just in my district. But if we aren't able to have people to work in those hotels and those restaurants, because they can't afford to live here because of the high cost of living, including the increase in their water bills, it isn't going to be a very beautiful place to visit. Many of those surcharges appear to be just for the Monterey District, so it would be very helpful if the CPUC would carefully analyze those surcharges that just apply here locally. We need to be able to more clearly see the true cost of our water through an open and transparent process. The lack of transparency in the CPUC's process is a key reason why I have supported evaluating public ownership rather than this obscure rate-making process. The complexity of the CPUC process limits our community's ability to have proper oversight and management of our water system. Please make sure that CalAM's general rate case does not include hidden costs to the ratepayers for the benefit of CalAM's shareholders. We cannot afford it, and it truly is an issue of economic justice. Again, thank you so much for listening to all of us, and I appreciate you being here in our beautiful county. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. So we have a very large number of people that have signed up, so we're going to have to limit the time that you can speak to 2 minutes so that everybody has an opportunity to speak. If you go a little over, I'm not going to be too concerned, but at this point right now, we have like 37 people signed up, so I cannot let you have an unlimited talking because the person that's number 37, it's really not fair to them to have to wait. So we want to hear everybody, so if you could kind of just be aware and not go on too long, that would be great. So our first person that we have, Nina Beatty.
My name is Nina Beatty, Ninabeety. Good evening, Judge Kelly, Commissioner Sharoma, and CPUC staff. I want to thank you, Judge Kelly, for arranging a disabled accommodation for me that due to the short time frame could only be a dedicated listen-only telephone line. I accepted your accommodation. As you see, however, I have elected to attend in person since today my symptoms are manageable enough to be here for a short time, after which I will go home and call in. Commissioner Sharoma, for future local meetings, when I'm able to attend without symptom exacerbation, I would like to speak in person and avail myself of a more reasonable accommodation, including to be able to speak in first in case I have to leave. I request that your ADA coordinator contact me for a dialogue towards that end. What I felt important to say in person is this: water is alive and essential. Every person has a duty to handle water with appreciation and reverence and responsibility. CalAM did not notify the public on important issues in this case. For instance, AMI or smart water meters and the wireless infrastructure on utility poles known as small cell towers are missing in the public notice that everyone received, despite being issue number 3. CPUC staff also told me that the Commission is not considering CalAM's special request number 15 for an opt-out. I see no evidence that there was CEQA evaluation of the system. These are a health and environmental hazard. The International Agency for Research on Cancer categorized this radiation as a possible carcinogen in 2011, and researchers and medical experts and prominent electrical engineers are calling for it to be upgraded to a probable or an actual carcinogen. And there was a national study, the National Toxicology Program study, that confirmed that this radiation causes cancer. It also causes DNA damage, damages the blood, and causes brain damage. So does it make sense to deploy a hazardous device throughout our communities and in the sidewalks where people, children, pets walk and stand? The placement of nodes on or near utility lines causes the signals to radiate and broadcast everywhere. And the power lines carry the signals, and companies are now seeking to decode these signals for their systems. An environmental study showed affects all life forms. A new study just showed how bees absorb this radiation. And the public knows nothing about this part of being CalAM's proposal that they're going to have to pay for. The prevalence of electromagnetic sensitivity is being ignored, and the financial costs in the millions of dollars to ratepayers and the public and community, and that are bankrupting individuals, including lost income, lost dollars to the local community, EMF shielding for homes, medical expenses, and increased county costs. How many people are made sick by these meters right now, and what is being done about them, and how will CalAm accommodate people? Those are all questions that are up in the air. The AMI and AMR meters pose privacy and security problems. Meters constantly transmit personal water usage data to CalAm where it's stored. This is data, the new gold. These networks can be hacked. Security experts repeatedly warn that every meter and every node is a vector to the meter management system. What else is that system connected to? They're historically prone to malfunctions and errors, and this rate case brings up leaks and leak adjustments. We've had very high bills here since AMR meters were installed, but there's been no investigation whether these are actual leaks, and CalAm wants reimbursement for them. The lifespan of the meters is 3 to 5 years, and in the rate case it says 20 years. And the industry is the one saying 3 to 5 years. But we wouldn't put a computer outside in the cold and the wet and the rain and expect it to function very long. And with a lithium battery that could explode with contact with moisture. This is a fire hazard too. So with the lack of disclosure that the public's had, I ask you to really carefully examine these issues in terms of how trustworthy we are going to feel as ratepayers and as the public when these important issues the public doesn't even have knowledge of. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Beatty. Arthur McLaughlin.
Good evening. I am the co-chair of the Central Coast Coalition. I'm here to speak specifically on the cost of passive wastewater. The U.S. government, and especially through Social Security, every year collects cost of living information. Using that information, new rates, if necessary, are applied to Social Security checks, many of which, as Mrs. Adams has said, wind up here in the Central Coast. Since CalAm took over the sewer systems in 2004, the cost of living increase has been 32.3%. If CalAm's rates were increased by 32.3%, our sewer bills this year would be $31.75. They are actually $56.80, or a 57.74% increase. So we are currently paying $25 more a month than we should be paying based on cost of a living increase. There have been no major improvements to the sewer system in Oak Hills, where I live. Staffing is the same, and I have no complaints about the service of the system or the employees working to unclog drains and things of that sort. Based on the approximate 417 customers in Oak Hills, something close to $284,000 is collected yearly. If the cost of living increase had been followed, it would have been $159,000. For labor, supplies, and a 12% profit of about $20,000, there would still be a surplus going to CalAm. Thank you.
Thank you. Phil Wellman.
Good evening. I'm Phil Wellman, and I thank you very much for coming to listen tonight.
Move the microphone over.
Okay, great to hear. But I'll be honest, this whole situation feels a little ludicrous, and I'll explain why. For 50 years, CalAm has been providing substandard service to the peninsula and jacking up the cost to ratepayers every chance they've had. That is no exaggeration. 2 years ago, we discovered CalAm was charging us the highest water costs in the country. What makes it worse is that the CPUC, over the last decade, has enabled that every step of the way. Last year, the community woke up and took the first step at severing our painful relationship with CalAm and thankfully passed Measure J. So the question is, was CalAm shamed by their loss? Did they pledge to mend their ways? Not a chance. They've been whining and conniving ever since. And again, that's no exaggeration. And now here they are back at the trough after a decade of increased costs plus surcharges, averaging 17% a year over the last decade. Costs, hidden surcharges, which Mary referred to. And they want more, a lot more. When will this end? That's the question on a lot of people's minds in this community. Is it possible for the CPUC to do its regulatory duty and rein in this behemoth until the community can finally divorce CalAm entirely? Or will you continue to enable the worst that corporate America has to offer? No exaggeration. Please do the right thing and take the report from your public advocate's office seriously. We are all tired of this nonsense. Thank you.
Good evening. Melody Chrislock, Public Water Now. I've done the best as I can to edit these down to 2 minutes, but it's going to run over.
Actually, I'm giving you guys 3 now, but if you guys can
Thank
stick
you.
to 3,
Oh, absolutely.
I
No
would
problem.
appreciate it. Thank you.
As we understand it, the CPUC's job is to regulate utilities. But the CPUC's past history with CalAm looks a lot more like regulatory capture. According to the February 14th report and recommendations on rates and surcharges from the Public Advocate's Office, CalAm has over 97 surcharge accounts with $199 million in them, just waiting to be added to our bills. These bills have averaged an increase here on the peninsula of 17% every year for the past decade, while CPI was less than 2% a year. Are you even aware of how your decisions impact us? A few of my last water bills, $260 a month, $290 a month, $604 a month, $662 a month. These are outrageous bills. This is the most expensive water in the country, and you have approved every dollar of it. These bills are the result of alternative rate-making mechanisms, my favorite new word, surcharges and advice letters that the CPUC has approved over the past decade outside the general rate case. CalAm was allowed to charge us $64 million for water we did not use due to conservation. That's still on our bill, followed by post-2015 RAM charges, with more to come. Is CalAm incapable of forecasting water use? These surcharges are 30 to 50% of our bills now. CalAm is using them to avoid transparency in its costs and budgeting. CalAm is living on surcharges and advice letters. In the 17 months between November 2016 and March 2018, there were 19 rate changes outside the general rate case. The proliferation of alternative rate-making mechanisms needs to stop. These surcharges are supposed to be one-time recovery mechanisms for unexpected events. But they've become a way of life for CalAm, and basically a permanent fixture on our bills. They are not taken into consideration when considering rate impacts. Just 4 months ago, 12.3% was added to our bills for the Monterey Pipeline, but no one knew it. The Peninsula knows firsthand that CalAm has no incentive to control costs. Look at the desal disaster. $144 million so far and no water. Are we expected to pay for that? We need water, not higher water bills. The one thing the CPUC could do for this community is to require CalAm to sign a water purchase agreement for the expansion of Pure Water Monterey. Please don't let CalAm hold this community's water supply hostage for profit. Insist that they allow the Pure Water Monterey expansion to move forward immediately. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah Sanger.
Hi, I'm Sarah Sanger. I'm with the Las Palmas Wastewater Committee, and we've been organized since about 2012, back when we had stinky water. It was really ugly. We have a treatment plant, and when the water was treated and then pushed up to these tanks, they were not properly maintained, and when we would water, it would smell like sewer. It was really bad for about 4 years, and every time we called to complain, they say, oh, it must be in your pipes. Well, it wasn't. And finally, Don McLean said that, or Rob McLean said, who was the then president of CalAm, explained that it was the tanks that were to blame, and he ordered that CalAm fix them. Since I've moved to Las Palmas, I checked my bill when I moved there in 2010, and it was $127 a month for sewer, about the highest in the state. Because Judge Colbert ordered that our rates be lowered and that they fix the system, our rates are now still about $127, but that's still very, very high. And 20% of the houses in Las Palmas are low income. And the low income rate offered by CalAm is 20% off. So that's still around $100 for low income people. So this time around, we've got a plant that's about to blow. They had told us about 4 years ago that they needed to replace a filter. That filter has not been replaced. Apparently it's now a danger to the employees. So they're asking for a rate increase to pay for that filter. Yes, the filter needs to be replaced. It smells terrible even just driving by, and it is a danger to the employees. That being said, CalAm has proposed, which they did in their last rate case, a high-cost fund that would spread our increase to the water customers and sewer customers throughout the state of $29 cents, so like less than 30 cents a month. I would say that we support that. I just read the Office of Ratepayer Advocates, or Public Advocates, counter to that today, and they said they oppose it. I would say I would encourage them to change their minds on that and to go with us. Last time, we proposed a settlement where they, instead of charging the water customers, they instead kind of engineered it. So part of it went to the passive people and part of it went to the water customers, some sort of strange rejiggering. Anyway, they would have kept our rates the same. They didn't raise them the last time. We have a dangerous situation in the plant now. We have some of the highest wastewater rates in the state. I would ask that you not raise them any further. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Ian Ogletree, followed by Jim Riley.
Good evening, Commissioner and Judge. As the Mayor of Seaside, I want to welcome you to the City of Seaside. Thank you for traveling here. I know you're busy and you travel far and far places, but we appreciate you being here to listen to the citizens and their concerns. It's clear that CalAm is entitled to recoup investments for operating costs, and I understand that that's your responsibility to make sure they receive what they're entitled to. I think we all understand that. However, the ratepayers in this era, as you know, already pay, as some claim, the highest rates in the nation. I believe that to be true. Every increase in water rates will result in a decrease of what little disposable income my residents have, whether it's a senior, a young family, ag or hospitality wage earners, or just those on fixed incomes. That means less new clothes, shoes, school supplies for our kids, and more than likely, less money for more nutritional food choices. In my opinion, at the end of the day, this will hurt them. And I would associate myself with the comments of Supervisor Adams where it relates to transparency and public ownership of utilities. I ask that you adopt the Public Advocate's proposal. I don't want to take a lot of your time other than to say that at the end of the day, I think the public are your customers too. You know, who are you concerned with? At the end of the day, if you're just sitting back regulating the utilities and they come with you with justifiable costs and we just adopt it, then what are you doing? At a certain point, that regulation, the regulators have to say enough is enough. And again, I think we've reached that point now. And so I ask you to give that serious thought and to, again, the people in this community are paying the highest rates. So if we increase the rates, what are they not buying? What are they not buying? After a while, it is disposable income. After a while, it is clothes. It is for kids. It is fixing the car. I don't know. I just think after a while, too, we know it's food. We know it's medicine. And so I ask you to take that into consideration also. Thank you.
You guys are getting me in trouble with the court reporter. You're not spelling your name, so could you please just spell your name, spell your name before you start speaking? Thank you.
I'm Jim, J-I-M, Riley, R-I-L-E-Y, and I'm part of the Central Coast Coalition, along with Art. I'm co-chairman also. In the sewer system, there are passive and active sewer systems. Active sewer systems are complex mechanical entities that work as a mini factory. A passive sewer system, you pump the water into a big pond, add some bugs to it, and let the bugs do the work, and that's it. Agitate it a few times a week, and nature does its course. We pay about 1/2 of what Las Palmas pays for our system, which is passive in the town of Spreckles. Las Palmas has a mechanical active system, which, as we heard, is not necessarily too active. It's interesting that we pay half of what they have to pay for their mechanical system when our system works purely by evaporation and quote flows. So there's a big span of cost there that is not necessary that Spreckles and Oak Hills has to pay. When Cal-Am took over the system, which they got from the county at practically no cost, we have been promised for over 15 years that they were going to put new sewer lines in the town of Spreckles, replacing the current 122-year-old sewer lines that were put in 1898. We've been through the 1906 earthquake, we've been through the 1989 earthquake, and many years ago the town Community Service District of Spreckles ran a camera down the sewer lines, and for about 50% of the length of them, the little tiny camera gets pulled through, couldn't even go through because it was so roller coastery in there, couldn't even go through. So the lines are in 122-year-old earthquake-prone condition. A few years ago, they absolutely promised that they were going to put new sewer lines in. The Spreckles Water Company replaced all the water lines in the town, and we contacted Cal American to see if they could work with the Spreckles Water Company, seeing as the trench digging equipment was going to be there, the plumbers, etc., and work together on a unified system to replace the sewer and the water at the same time with the equipment and tear the streets up at the same time and repair them at the same time. They didn't want to hear anything about that. So that was a golden opportunity missed, which tells us that they have no intentions of ever replacing any of those lines. That's about it, in a nutshell.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Mark Eckles. And Mr. Dursa, you're after him.
Hello, and glad to see everyone's here, and that we made it through the traffic of the congestion in our area.
Sorry, can you just state and spell your
Yes,
name,
my
please?
name is Mark, M-A-R-K, and the last name is Eckles, E-C-K-L-E-S. I, years ago, was a resident of Felton at 770 Brookside Drive, and so one afternoon, over the Measure O attempt to gain control over our public resource, I took a little trip over there and questioned people on the street in various places, in the fire department and the police department included, and every single person couldn't understand why the person was trotted out before the TV and the media by Cal-Am to say what a bad deal that the residents of Felton entered into. And they all expressed their overwhelming gratitude and contentment with what they had done, and that's to buy Cal-Am out. We are in a protracted struggle to try and do that, and that's just the first occasion of where Cal-Am cannot be believed that the veracity is not there, sorry to say. Cal-Am has not been published, entered into a non-disclosure agreement with a resident in Carmel Valley who is the owner of a box canyon, and the plan was to dredge a San Clemente dam and move the debris into that box canyon, and consequently you would have had a functioning dam. And if you went to see that dam in the process of what ultimately happened, you could very well see that not one thing had ever been done to maintain that facility. Consequently, the dam was silted up, and then we paid whatever it was, $50 million to have it taken out. And you didn't have a source of fresh water there for the wildlife or firefighting. And I have to say that if you were aware of the Soberanus fire, if that water source had been there, a fire broke out and an illegal camp fire,
It grew to 5 acres. CAL FIRE came in and beat it down to 2 acres. Over the objection to the pilot, somebody said that you better go take your water out of the ocean, out of rather a freshwater source versus the ocean nearby. And consequently, the fire grew to a couple 100,000 acres. And Mr. Reagan lost his life in the process. And the last item that occurred recently was a sensor was put in the wrong place in one of the testing wells for the slant well system, and it erroneously reported the salinity of the water to be favorable to them in their effort to put slant wells in. And if you know a little bit about hydraulics, you know that there's no way that water in slant wells isn't going to increasingly be pumping fresh water, robbing marina of their source of water, and the farmers too. So I would encourage everybody to read Troubled Waters, a recent book out by a fellow named Siegel, and it's all in there and more. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Eccles. And after Mr. Durso is Marley Milton.
Good evening. Ken, URSA. I work with Art and James Riley regarding wastewater users at Spreckles and Oak Hills. I'm a ratepayer in Spreckles. I have a company house there. I started a Spreckle Sugar Company in 1971 and actually worked on the wastewater system, maintaining it. People in the town worked on successor companies after the factory closed, and Cal-Am bought it all out in 2004. Our group began in 2008. So I've been at it 12 years dealing with Cal-Am, and what I've seen is a company that has gone we're going from a Class D sewer system regulated by the CPUC to a Class A system, and it's been like day and night. What we see is happy talking lawyers who are out to game the system. To get the simplest of numbers, for example, when they first came out with a major change in 08, they were telling us they were using $500,000 with chemicals in the Spreckle system, and what it came down to after months and months and months was actually zero. What's of interest to this group tonight is special request number 17 in this latest application. We are all for assisting low-income customers, both in water and wastewater. The problem with special request 17 is that it gives an across-the-board everyone in what they call the active systems a rate decrease. But in fact, in those 1,200 active users, there's only 25 people that qualify for low-income assistance. And in passive, which gets no rate relief, there are actually, I think, 15 people. No one in water gets any relief for their low-income, users. So we need to revisit. For example, the lady's saying she's paying $150 or $200 for a water bill. That needs to be revisited. The other thing is what we've seen is the CPUC, just tremendous turnover in staff. I don't think anybody's here that from the what started as the Division of Ratepayer Advocates, and then it's the Office of Ratepayer Advocates, and now it's the Public Advocates, and we get it confused with the Public Advisors, who's been of no help whatsoever. But to the folks in the Public Advocates Office, we would have never survived and made it without them. The last thing, flashback issue. I'm seeing the GI newspapers. It's an incredible display out on the wall in the City Hall here. And I hope to edit and distribute some of those. And so I think I'll have to go read what the heck I was saying 50 years ago.
Thank you, Mr. Durso. I assure you that I also confuse the Public Advocate's Office with the Public Advisor's Office every day. And especially when I'm even doing these things, I have big notes in big capital letters so that I can hopefully say the right organization and not say the wrong one.
All right, but we want to say a good thing about them because they've been great. But they need a raise, huh?
I'm Marley Melton, M-A-R-L-I-M-E-L-T-O-N, and I want to thank you for listening to all of us so attentively. I would also like to thank the Public Advocate's Office for their diligent, thorough, and honest work to represent us as ratepayers. The CPUC has benefited large for-profit utility monopolies, especially Cal-Am. And that has meant you've increased inequality and suffering in our state by requiring low and middle income taxpayers to pay excessive amounts that are collected as profits by wealthy shareholders and compensation by management and board members of monopolies. And that must stop. And while inflation has been below 2% per year for the past decade, Cal-Am's residential water bills statewide have increased 9% per year and 17% per year for customers here on the Monterey Peninsula. Just 2 months ago, we had a 12% increase added to our water bills we knew nothing about. It was for the Monterey pipeline. Surcharges are supposed to be unexpected expenses, and those should be paid out of profits when Cal-Am's profits, correctly calculated, exceed 9.3%. Though even that rate seems excessive when average profits for large U.S. non-financial corporations are about 7% in a good year. And not always year after year, guaranteed. Now Cal-Am is asking you to approve rate increases totaling 18% or possibly 19% if successive rate increases are applied against the rates of the preceding year. Plus another 15 to 20% in surcharges, which are now 28% of my water bill. And so if you approve another 15 to 20% in surcharges, that would be a 35 to 40% increase for all of us. Please say no. And one more thing. I hope the CPUC and its staff will strongly encourage Cal-Am to sign a purchase agreement for the Pure Water Monterey expansion. That project can help lift the CDO on the Carmel River, allow water for much-needed low-income housing and other uses, and help Cal-Am add even more water to the Seaside Basin in case of drought. That project can do all that affordably, and we need it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Melton.
Susan Schiavone, S-C-H-I-A-V-O-N-E. Thank you for coming to Seaside. We really appreciate that you came to our town. I want to address the $2.5 million included in this rate case, earmarked for the Forest Lake Pump Station, which is needed for Cal-Am's new $50 million pipeline to move water to Carmel and Carmel Valley. This was a big oversight on Cal-Am's part because it was omitted from Cal-Am's desal application. This additional capital project is required for Cal-Am's desal project, but it is not included in any CPUC or NEPA review. There is no reference in the general rate case that any environmental review will occur. The CPUC will be in violation of CEQA law if it allows a pump station without an environmental review. The CPUC will violate CEQA law prohibiting piecemealing capital projects if it allows the Forest Lake Pump Station as a supplement to the desal project. Cal-Am is using a backdoor strategy to correct its omission from its application. The CPUC would be an accomplice to CalAM's deceptive actions by not demanding a full environmental review of the pump station. This illustrates CalAM's poor planning, poor engineering, and basically dysfunctional desal project. It's time to get serious about the CDO and direct CalAM to sign a water purchase agreement with Monterey One Water for the Pure Water Monterey expansion. In less than 4 months, CalAM will begin using the initial 3,500 acre-feet from Pure Water Monterey. If expanded, the additional 2,250 acre-feet can meet the requirements of the CDO in about 18 months. Please require CalAM to sign a water purchase agreement immediately. Finally, as a Seaside ratepayer, the continued spiking of our water charges has become onerous. Our bills have increased an average of 17% per year as stated, and for the past 10 years has gone up from $20 to $100. Surcharges are not taken into consideration and now comprise 30 to 50% of our bills. Pushing out lower income residents due to high water costs is unjust when there is an alternative. Pure Water Monterey expansion offers the only option for lower water costs for our residents. Thank you.
Michael Warburton.
Oh, I think other people are saying it.
Pat Benza. Doug Wilhelm.
Is it still okay to sign up if you haven't signed up yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you announce the next person, please?
Margaret Ann Coppernell, and then Mary Salsang.
Doug Wilhelm, W-I-L-H-E-L-M. For-profit companies and investors earn profit for taking risk. Forecasting risk is why CalAM earns 9.2% return on their investment. By allowing alternative rate-making mechanisms like the Annual Consumption Adjustment Mechanism, or ACAM, you are putting the risk on ratepayers and ensuring CalAM's rate of return. ACAM adjusts customer rates based on the most recent 12 months of usage. If customers don't use as much water as anticipated, ACAM actually increases rates. CalAM should be able to forecast demand and tolerate risk. We agree with Public Advocate's Office that the ACAM policy now in effect should be discontinued. Surcharges are supposed to be temporary to address unforeseen circumstances. CalAM is using them to avoid responsibility and transparency. According to the Feb 14 report and recommendation on rates and surcharges from the Public Advocate's Office, CalAM has 97 surcharge accounts totaling $199 million. And now CalAM wants approval to add their 9.2% rate of return on that $199 million. Please deny this request and reinstate an earnings test before authorizing surcharges to make sure CalAM is not getting more than its authorized 9.2% rate of return. CalAM needs to live within its budget. In the public's interest, please discontinue or limit surcharges and the alternate rate-making mechanisms. This includes all of the various memorandum and balancing accounts and RAM charges. Limit surcharges to a total of 20% of a residential bill. Thank you.
Thank you. What I'm going to do to speed this up a little bit, I'm going to call out the other two speakers, and if you could just line up. So after Ms. Coppernell is Mary Salsang and then Alan Rosenthal.
Looks like I need to grow. Good evening, distinguished CPUC members. My name is Margaret Ann Coppernall. As a co-founder member of the CPUC party to CalAM's NPWSP, I have expansive knowledge of the depth of issues Cal-Am has brought to our communities and their ensuing devastation. I speak to Cal-Am's desal plant and source water slant wells. The $144 million Cal-Am has already needlessly wasted adds to ratepayer financial burden. Your interest must go far beyond approving rate increases. You have a moral responsibility to consider the serious consequences.
Miss, I'm sorry, could you slow down? The court reporters.
I'm going to give her a copy.
Okay, but still just try to slow down.
I'm sorry. Some comic relief here. You have a moral responsibility to consider the serious consequences decisions have for present and future generations. Your decisions have caused severe hardship for Monterey Peninsula ratepayers who now have the most expensive water in our nation. CPUC approved Cal-Am's desal plant permit without acknowledging that the slant wells will be installed in the critically overdrafted Salinas Valley groundwater basin aquifers, or that Cal-Am desal operations will contaminate and deplete them. The California Coastal Commission recommended denial of Cal-Am's permit due to its lack of groundwater rights, deceptive modeling, false screen sensor positioning, and other critical reasons. Now you allow Cal-Am to impede Pure Water Monterey expansion by refusing to sign a water purchase agreement for an additional 2,250 acre-feet of water. Water that is so desperately needed for our communities to satisfy the state cease and desist order. It is your responsibility, we feel, in the public interest to require Cal-Am to buy this essential water. The fallout of Cal-Am's request for more rate increases that encompass massive hidden surcharges will yet again be on your conscience. I urge you to deny all rate increases. Protect California ratepayers, not Cal-Am and its shareholders. Thank you for doing the right thing. Justice demands a cap on Cal-Am's voracious greed and an end to its deceitful practices. Please, no more rate increases. Approve Pure Water Monterey expansion. Thank you so much for being here this evening.
Thank you. I can get Alan Rosenthal or Michael Baer to line up now, please.
Rosenthal will pass on that because all the issues are getting addressed.
Thank you. So Mr. Baer, if you could line up.
My name is Mary Solsing, that's MarySolseng. I represent only myself. And I'm here tonight. I do thank you for coming to Seaside for this hearing. But I'm here tonight, and I'm speaking tonight because I'm angry. I bought my home in Delray Oaks in 1987, and I've seen nothing but rate increases from Cal-Am over the years, and very little, if any, improvement in services. As a matter of fact, I think the company has been horribly mismanaged, or they would not be constantly coming back and asking for more money to solve problems that they themselves have contributed to or created. I appreciate Cal-Am being here. I was somewhat amused by your comments, Ms. Stedman, about at the very inception of your comments, you made a comment to the effect that Cal-Am could help us with conserving water and therefore reduce our bills. Over the years that I've owned my home, I started out with a pretty nice garden that required irrigation. I now have artificial turf. I've spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars conserving water. It has not helped my bills. The other thing that has not been addressed tonight, and I do wish over the last 2 or 3 years, I had saved all of the 4-color glossy print 11 by 17 folders that have been delivered to my mailbox from Cal-Am, telling me how wonderful they are and how we should oppose Proposition J or any efforts to turn this into truly public water. I would encourage you to take into consideration all of the comments tonight. You know, I said I represent only myself, but I think I represent a large portion of this community that is angry. And I think you should probably be taking that into consideration also. Thank you.
Michael Baer, B-A-E-R. I'm not by nature a cynical man, but I'm deeply cynical about your agency. Let me tell you why. 16 months ago, in September of 2018, in your house on Van Ness Avenue, at the final EIR public hearing for the desal plant, about 40 people organized carpools beginning at 5 a.m. I was driving the sweep vehicle, so I left at 6:05 a.m. We signed in at the office there at the PUC at 5 minutes to 9. In the hall, there was a slide projected on the wall, and it said that no one could make a public comment unless they had arrived and signed in by 9 a.m. I think you know that policy. Yet the commercial interests that day that support Cal-Am did not arrive until 20 minutes to 10. Their charter bus had left at 6:30 a.m., and once again, they had miscalculated. And once again, they got a free pass from the CPUC. The chair stopped calling names and told us just to line up in any order for 1 minute apiece for public comment. But that was not the worst of that day. Far from it. After everyone had spoken on both sides, and before the vote, each commissioner read a prepared statement about why they were voting for approval. Do you understand? The verdict was in before we even got into our cars at 5 o'clock in the morning. The whole thing was a charade. It is safe to say that we were all shocked by the brazen disrespect towards the public demonstrated by the commissioners that day. Now we are $140 million into the proposed desal plant, and the Coastal Commission staff reported from last November that there are many substantial deficiencies. Some have been mentioned already on the FEIR, and they recommended denial. It has since been delayed. But this is a huge obstacle, so in the future we may be having an argument about who will be responsible for the stranded costs. I was talking to my mom yesterday at dinner, and she knew I was coming to this meeting and was asking about it. She's 90. So I said, it's like the House managers making their case before Senate Republicans in the impeachment trial. No matter how brilliant the argument, the verdict was in before the trial began. I recommend that you deny the request for an increase, endorse the recommendation of the 2.86 decrease, and insist on the water purchase agreement with Monterey One.
Rachel Ramos. Bob Notley. Here. Followed by that'll be Sylvia Shee. And Karen Paul.
Good evening. Appreciate this, that you being here with us tonight to hear us. My name is Walt Notley, N-O-T-L-E-Y. I'm a Cal-Am Peninsula ratepayer. First, I would ask you to please discontinue surcharges and alternative rate-making mechanisms, which can hide and confuse the 30 to 50% plus charges incorporated on our bills. Besides, they are supposed to be temporary. Yet there are 97 current surcharge accounts, one of which is the $64 million Cal-Am charges us for water we did not use, that we are still paying off as a RAM charge. Just say no to alternative rate-making mechanisms and surcharge. CPUC policy of allowing these should be re-examined. How can you regulate Cal-Am when you don't know how surcharges between The general rate cases will affect our water costs. CalAm needs more incentive to control costs by evidence of dam, pump station, pipe problems, and desal problems. American Water Works, CalAm's parent company, has increased per share value of stock from $15 in June of 2009 to $120 per share in June of 2019, amounting to an 8-time increase over 10 years. Current 9.2 return on investment is more than adequate given that per year inflation is under 2%. CalAm cannot securely move forward with desal because of many environmental, justice, and infrastructure problems to meet the state CDO. That in order to keep current 9.2 rate of return on investment required CalAm to sign a water purchase agreement to deliver Pure Water Monterey expansion, which is more than adequate water and can meet the state CDO at much less cost, less environmental degradation, and more responsibility and justice to residents in Marina, and much lower cost to Monterey Peninsula CalAm ratepayers. Thank you for this time.
So Sylvia Shee, Karen Paul, and Peter Thorpe, please line up. So after Ms. Shee, Mr. Paul, or sorry, Ms. Paul, and then Mr. Thorpe.
I'm Sylvia Shee. I live in Seaside. It's served by KLM. And I often wonder why the water rate by KLM is the highest in the nation. It's here. And I often heard that a corporation need to make money and PCUC is allowing them to make money. But as they proceed on the project can be effective or the project can fail. It seems to me because KLM, the more expense they spend, the more money they get. So there's no incentive for them to get effective project. So they might have project here that failed, project there, and they are not coordinated. They dig up the road, the next moment they might dig up the road again to do something else. So they come forward to the agency, PCUC, to request rate increases. On the surface, each one of them seems to be small, seems to be reasonable. And with the changeover in office, you may not have the whole history. But in reality, they are maybe made to fail so that they can get more and more because all the projects are not coordinated. And I just heard someone said that one way for you is to use less water, they save money. Everyone's laughing. It is true. Actually, if you are using very little water, the rest of the charges, like you got water usage, let's say you spend $5 on water usage. The fixed amount of the delivery other usage is $20-some. And then the rest of the surcharge, you end up with 10% that has to do with the water. The rest of 90% is all the surcharges, all the services. So it is important for PCUC just to set a rule that you will not give any increase unless they actually deliver on the project that they say they are going to do. That will change the scenario. And that's all I want to say. And also that I want to encourage to let them think differently to get to the cheaper water, like the pure water now. Why would they reject to accept something that is ready there and can deliver? What's the motive? And if it's so difficult for them to operate, why wouldn't they sell? Thank you.
catch your name, Chief of Staff. Okay. And to the folks the energetic folks sitting behind me, I apologize for turning my back on you. My name is Karen Paul, Karenpaull. I'm a resident of Pacific Grove. I'm a retired attorney, and I was an attorney for the Commission, or for the Office of Ratepayer Advocates, the predecessor of Public Advocates, for a total of 15 years, from 1999 to 2014, and I retired at the end of 2014. But I've had no involvement in this proceeding, and here I am just speaking as a resident. Supervisor Mary Adams said very well most of the things that I was going to say about transparency and affordability. I just want to add a few things about those two topics. Affordability. There's an acute crisis of affordability in this community. There's a lot of poverty in this community. Since I moved here, a lot of the jobs are minimum wage jobs, are only barely better, and the cost of living is extremely high. I've spoken to so many people who work two jobs. Many people working two jobs just to stay afloat. And as you know, they pay the highest water rates in the nation. This is really a crisis, and one of the reasons for the anger, I think, that you're hearing tonight. I was glad to see that the Pacific Institute is going to participate in the proceeding and address this issue of water affordability, and maybe I hope that will help develop the record on that aspect of it. On the transparency issue, 97 surcharge accounts. When I read the Public Advocates report and recommendations last night, because I just found out about this hearing, I couldn't believe it. And multiple rate increases in between rate cases, I thought, wow, this is just so unacceptable. I realize this is a horrible situation that you've inherited. It's not of your making, but it is such there's a proper place for what we used to call memorandum accounts, for surcharge accounts for certain things, but it's clearly been abused. If there are 97 surcharge accounts and 20 or 30% of the customer's bill is collected through those accounts, which we know get very, very, very limited review. It's an abuse of the system, and I urge you to figure out how to put a stop to this abuse. That's the first recommendation of the Public Advocates Office, and I hope you give it serious consideration to their first recommendation and the other two, which also have to do with limiting the amount of...
Paul, if you could wrap up, please.
Okay. Because of the hidden charges, the one problem with the surcharge, the 97 surcharge accounts, is notice of, people are not getting notice of the real rate increase. They're supposed to get notice of what the rate increase, meaning what is the increase in what they're going to have to pay. And the announced rate increase don't include all the sums that are going to be collected through surcharge accounts, so people don't actually have meaningful notice of rate increases, and that shouldn't be allowed to continue either. So I think the report and recommendations of the Public Advocates Office are really, really important and really well said, and I hope you will consider them very carefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone for the record? Okay, I need to give my court reporter a break, so we're going to take a break for 15 minutes. Come back at 7:45. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to have to start enforcing the time limit. Unfortunately, we only have the facility to 9, and I don't want to have to cut anybody off from giving their speeches. So once the red light comes on, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up. So please try to make sure that you are aware of that. We're going to go ahead and Mr. Thorpe has decided not to speak. Our speaker to start will be Joel Young, and we will go back on the record. Mr. Young. Tammy Timian, and then Robert Coble.
Good evening, commissioners, judge, and to everyone here. I'm going to be really, really brief.
Sorry, just remember to state and spell your name.
My name is Joel Young, it's Joelyung. When we had the drought, I agree, it was comical about saving water. We saved water. If we didn't save water, we were going to be fined. So we know how to save water. Cal-Am showed us how much they appreciate the job that we did so well. When the drought was over, they raised the rates 50%. My bill doubled. Most of us that work, we get maybe a 3% raise, maybe a year. 5% is considered really good. Cal-Am is asking for almost a 20% raise of our rates. So that means stuff that we've been getting, we have to cut out because they don't want to take any risk. They want to make money. And they don't care where it comes from, apparently, and they keep taking from us, and they're not giving us anything back.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Young. Karen Tinian, Robert Coble, Timothy Sanders.
Hi, thanks for this opportunity. I'm Tammy Tinian. I moved here about 7 years ago. And
Sorry, could you just state and spell the name? You stated the name, just spell it for the court order, please.
Timmion. I took water conservation quite seriously when I moved here. I still do. To be rewarded by my conservation effort, my rates, increasing, so it just seems so wrong. I can't dispute, the plea for the increase that Cal-Am has, but I do know that the parent company, American Water, over the last 5 years their stock performance has done equal, if not a little bit better than Apple stock. We need water. We don't need phones. But I thank you for your time, and I really hope you listen to us and act accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tinian. Robert Coble, Timothy Sanders, Jane Sanders.
Thank you for being here. My name is Robert Coble, C-O-B-L-E. And among the many things I heard from Cal-Am's spokesperson, the most disgusting thing to me was her offer to teach us how to conserve water. We've been doing that. Now, my wife and I are both retired teachers. I've lived in Seaside now for 23 years, or more than that. I'm going to be 82 this summer. And we're on fixed income. We can't turn around and demand more money and get it like Cal-Am does. I'm just going to talk to you about a significant change that we've seen. We don't shower anywhere near as much as we used to. We no longer have a lawn. Now, in this 5-year progression, in 2016, the first 2 months of the year, our water bill was $48.08, the January bill, and the February bill was $42.45, for a total of $90.53 for the two of us. We did a lot of showers then, and we did water some lawn, and we did have a grandson staying with us a lot, and if you have grandsons, you know they shower a lot. At least the older ones do. Now, jump ahead to the last 2 months, first 2 months of this year. From $48.08 in 2016, our January bill was $100.10. From $42.45 in 2016, the February bill was $95.80. 8 cents. So the total went from $90.53 to $195.18, a 216% increase. That is disgusting. Please don't let them continue to steal from us. We need to have a public takeover of the water system. Thank you.
Timothy Sanders, Jane Sanders, Howard Watson. Timothy Sanders, Jane Sanders, Mark Watson.
My name is Timothy Sanders, TIMOTHYSANDERS. And I want to thank especially the, whatever the appropriate name for it is now, there used to be the Office of Ratepayer Advocates. And their reports have, this time around, have been really splendid. And have informed us more than I think we've been informed ever before on surcharges, for example. So I appreciate their work. I want to speak a little bit about an issue that is not currently on the formal proceedings, namely the acquisition of Bellflower, or the Bellflower water system. And it may be thought that's a bit out of order, but in fact, it affects us. If the Monterey water system were publicly owned, such an acquisition and its ratepayer consequences would not even be contemplated. It would be considered absurd for the local water district to buy the Bellflower water district, especially when some of the evaluations of it have been $0, according to the Office of Ratepayer Advocates. The neighboring water system wouldn't take it over because it would cost them too much money. And I'm talking about the operation of the system would cost them. They wouldn't pay anything for it. The financial onus of the purchase is placed on ratepayers. And I want to quote from the what I call the ORA report that we received about Bellflower. And it says, quote, combining the proposed acquisition price with the forecasted infrastructure upgrades for the Bellflower plant, the Public Advocate's Office estimates the increase would be greater than 3% if spread uniformly across all of CalAM's existing rate-making areas and customers. That includes us. It's an acquisition should never have taken place in the first place. And the Office of Ratepayer Advocates also says that the proposed transaction is fundamentally unfair to ratepayers, which is in fact well supported by their report. The proposed purchase is no more than a scheme to raise CalAM profits with no benefit to existing CalAM ratepayers, including those on the peninsula, but is to be accomplished at the expense of those very ratepayers. The CPUC needs to form a wall to separate corporate financial interests of one system from those of another when there is no physical, systematic, or service connection between the units. This
Mr. Sanders, I'm going to have to ask that you wrap up now, please.
Sure. I just want to say again that public ownership naturally erects a wall between such outfits, and CalAM's proposal is unreasonable and causes an erosion of public trust generated by CalAM. It's greatly, the existing trust is already bad, doesn't exist. This greatly exacerbates the lack of trust. Thank you.
Thank you. And unfortunately, I just have to ask everybody to please stick to the 3 minutes because we have close to 40 people signed up, and I don't want to have the people at the end of the list not be able to make comments. So please, once the red light comes on, please wrap up. Sorry about that, but I have to do that. So thank you.
Good evening, all. My name is Jane Sanders, so we're keeping it in the family. This family gets 3 minutes each. So I just wanted to urge you to vote no on the rate increase. As you have heard from many people, it's not fair to us, and it's excessive. And I want to second the Office of Ratepayers arguments. I think they're very well written, and I hope that you listen to them and agree to them. And I agree with the Bellflower purchase. it does nothing for us except cost us money. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. Mark Watson, followed by Anna Thompson and Tammy Jennings. Mark Watson? Anna Thompson?
Good evening. Anna Thompson, Thonpson. I'm a ratepayer and I live in Carmel. And I wanted to just agree with everything else that anybody has said, that it's not, we wanted to reduce the costs. So I don't agree with the proposals, the requests, for Kelly's request. I wanted to just add that the Monterey Peninsula has the most expensive water in the nation. After 50+ years of ownership, Calhoun has failed to successfully develop any new water supply project. The costs for 3 failed projects were charged to the ratepayers, not to the Calhouns or its investors. Now we are being asked to have even higher water bills to fund actions that merely serve to improve the bottom line of Calhoun, not to secure needed water supply sources. I urge the Commission to deny Calhoun's unwarranted rate increases and to request that Calhoun enter into a purchase agreement for the water to be produced by the Pure Water Monterey Expansion Project. The Pure Water Monterey Expansion Project is feasible. It is ready to be developed, but Calhoun refuses to sign a water purchase agreement. Why? It's to everyone's benefit to recycle all available wastewater rather than dumping it into the ocean after each single use. Reusing of the water is the most effective, the most reliable source of water, and why do we want to waste it and destroy our environment at the same time with their proposed desal plant? If they want to reduce our costs, then go ahead and purchase the water from the Pure Water Monterey expansion, and that way we'll make all of us happy. So thank you for this opportunity, and also thank you for the CPU having requested Calhoun to purchase the water from the Pure Water Monterey project, the original one, which is now going to be able to provide all the water that we need to be able to get, plus with the expansion, then we would have enough water for decades to come. So they want to reduce our costs, stop imposing the desal plant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Watson. Adam Scow, Alexander Henson.
Hi, my name is Tammy Jennings, Tammyjenings. I am a Monterey resident and a Calhoun ratepayer. I have a few things I want to say. Number one, I bought my house in 1996. I still don't have any landscape in the backyard because I was trying to conserve water. When we did conserve water, I only took 2 showers a week, but I'm paying for the water that I didn't ever use, which was just irritating. Every time Calhoun requests a rate increase, the CPUC has approved it. If I could get a 9% return on anything, I would be so happy. But I can't. I am living on a fixed income. I'm disabled, forced into retirement in 2006. I don't get a 9% increase on my, as everybody else here that's on a fixed income from Social Security get. We get maybe 2% if we're lucky. How am I supposed to budget and make ends meet when my income isn't keeping up with Calhoun, a corporation that hasn't even kept up with the infrastructure that they should have maintained.
Yes.
Like, for example, the dam. We ended up paying to have it taken out when all they had to do was just maintain it. It was already there. Anyway, please do not let them do this again. I have spoken at every CPUC meeting for the last 10 years at least, and every time the CPUC has agreed to their request. Don't let them get away with it this time, and please ask them to sign the Pure Water Monterey Agreement. We have the money, it's here. Not the money, we have the water, it's here. We should be able to use it, but they don't want to sign the agreement. That's it, I'm done.
Thank you, Ms. Chairman. Alexander Hanson.
Thank you, Commissioner and representatives from the PUC for coming down here tonight. My name is Adam Scow, S-C-O-W. I have been an ally and advisor with Public Water now. Tonight I'm speaking as a candidate for U.S. Congress here in the 20th Congressional District. S-C-O-W, slower. You got it. A lot to say. I'll keep it brief. I want to thank all the local elected officials who are here tonight, standing with the community and showing real leadership. It's been exciting to see a growing wave of local elected officials have the courage to take on CalAm. That has not always been the case. And the message I want to give here tonight is that we are on a path to get rid of CalAm. We are on a path to replace CalAm with the Water Management District here, as stated by the 1978 law that created the Water Management District. So we are finally on a path to realize that. We are in an election year, a very important election year for this community, with 2 seats that will be coming up for the Water Management District. And so we urge you to not only reject these surcharges, force the water purchase agreement, but also really respect what's going on here. So many of us have been to these hearings 20, 30 times. I've been speaking at hearings against CalAm rate hikes since 2006. So we are very excited to be on the cusp of finally winning public water ownership, and we want to thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
I'm glad I voted for you. Patrick Ferguson.
And where are you? He left. Patrick Ferguson.
Mr. Ferguson. After that is Esther Malkin.
My name is Patrick Ferguson, Ferguson. There's a multiplicity of reasons why everyone is here and why 70% of us voted for Proposition J. I don't have any personal stories, anecdotes, or statistics. I'm here as a local resident and to provide solidarity with my neighbors and fellow residents and ratepayers, and possibly some levity, we'll see. I'll keep my comments brief. I'm sure that we all know friends, colleagues, and family who are native Californians who have been forced, due to extreme cost of living increases, to move out of state. Millions have fled. So many that a recent news story stated that after this 2020 census, for the first time in 160 years, California stands to lose electoral college delegates. The fact that the undemocratic electoral college should be abolished is a topic for another day. CalAm is part of corporate America. Another recent news article claims that big banks made $37 billion in overdraft charges, meaning that they collected $37 billion from people who have no money. I can't help but see a parallel with CalAm. One is given to wonder if their accountants have serious crystal meth habits. Perhaps Mick Mulvaney is moonlighting. Because in my far less than humble opinion, CalAm epitomizes everything that is wrong, corrupt, evil, and effed up about corporate America. They're basically the Donald Trump of water companies. Please do not follow the example of the DNC, who've changed their own rules to allow Bloomberg into the debates. Please stop enabling their greedy, inept incompetence. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. Mr. Malkin, Bergevere.
Wow, I have to follow that, but I think I can manage. Esther Malkin, ESTHER, MALKIN. So I've been living here for 20 years now, and when I moved here, there was the talk of the desal plan and that we were going to be paying towards it. And here we are, and we still don't have any desalinated water. No disrespect to any of the officials here, but I'm not going to thank you guys for being here tonight. You guys are being paid very, very well to be here tonight. The fact that you're here and you're not in San Francisco or San Jose isn't even enough unless you understand the differences between those areas and ours when you make these decisions. I've attended many meetings that you guys, and not you specifically, but this commission has put on, and they're just for optics. Who are we kidding here? You guys come down here, put on a meeting, and then you still approve the rates that are being put before you, regardless of what anybody tells you. So I'm not even going to thank you if you guys deny this one, because that's so overdue, given what the public has been telling you guys for decades already. So you guys are actually complicit in all the utility issues that we have here. And I mentioned I moved here 20 years ago. I lived on the East Coast. I never saw a utility system set up and as expensive as what I've seen here. You know, by you guys giving these utility companies anything and everything they ask for and passes, we end up with a CalAm gigantic monster. We end up with a PG&E burning down our cities and burning down our killing our residents, basically. You know, but when I moved here, years later, we were told that we had to conserve energy and conserve water. So everybody got on board, conserved the water that they did. CalAm handed out trinkets for free, like if it was some big effort that they were making to help us conserve water. And then they charged us because we conserved water. So I don't understand the rationale at any point that that any resident's input is being taken into consideration. You guys should know that there is an affordable housing crisis in this state. I am here as a 20-year resident of this area. I would venture to say that maybe there are a handful of renters here tonight. But the mayor, Ian Oglesby, mentioned the price of the water is going to create strains on households, specifically renters. You know, why aren't more renters here tonight? Because they're busy working 2 and 3 jobs to afford the rents here. We don't have Google, Facebook, Salesforce, like you guys, where you guys come from. Our jobs here are low-income jobs, and it's not just seniors that are on fixed incomes. Some low-wage workers wish they were fixed incomes because their hours get cut regularly and they can't even make ends meet. So, in closing, I just want to remind you guys that this meeting is basically a waste of all our time. Again, unless you guys step up and actually take something into consideration that you hear here and do something other than just appease the public with the optics of listening to us, because this is decades of this already. And how much longer, will you guys waste your time and ours at meetings like this? Thank you.
Thank you. Jackson T. Dowd and Lisa Haas.
Bergevere, B-E-R-J-A-M-I-R. I haven't been to many meetings. This is in fact my first one. I didn't come actually with intention to speak. I have started to pay attention because it has been rather dramatic in terms of the cost. This is a working class area. I know we have a lot of, it's a tourist place, but it's a working class community. I'm an underpaid employee in a school. There are a lot of people on fixed incomes. My water bill was in the 20s. If I have a bill under $100, it's a good month. And I'm very conservative with the water that I don't have lawns, et cetera, et cetera. I knew there was a guaranteed rate of return, but I've learned quite a lot just by observing. I think 9% is an extremely good guaranteed rate of return. I think it's actually a little high, but I was confused at the beginning to say when they said they only apply every 3 years, because I'm seeing rate increases almost every time I open my bill. And that's what I've learned is these other types of mechanisms who other people have spoken much more eloquently than I have. I am not an attorney. I certainly do not have the money to hire one to defend myself. So I really have to rely on you to do that. And there's a lot of people that have made very strong cases, and I think most of them are probably true. And I'm really relying, this is the only way to kind of start to bring it back. And you've heard many times already to please say no. I'm asking you to do the same. I really think it is time. And actually, I think there needs to be a period of no more increases, because it's been quite absorbent. I've heard the calculation of 17% per. It's based on my bill pretty accurate. That's rather exceptional. So I'm asking you to take the report in and please act on my and my fellow citizens' behalf. Thank you.
Jackson Keith Dowd.
Hi, my name is Jackson Dowd. I am a reluctant repayer of CalAm and...
Sorry, spell your name.
Jackson Dowd, D-O-W-D. And I am pro public water and would like to see CalAm go away. I just heard of this meeting about an hour ago, and I want to yield the rest of my time to people who are more prepared. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Lisa Haas.
Hi, my name is Lisa Haas, Lisa Haas. Anyways, I'm also a resident of, been in my house since 1996, and mostly I just want to say that I think clean, affordable, public water should be affordable for all of us. I mean, it should be a basic human right. And around here, I've watched my bill for my house of raising a family of 5 to 2 people triple in the last 20 years. Same house, nothing different other than low flow toilets and all the conservative, crappy yard and everything is going down, and I'm really concerned about it. I hope you just care about the people that live here. It's out of control. It's truly out of control. Anyway, that's all.
Todd Vasco. Mr. Todd Vasco. Okay, so that concludes the number of parties that have, or individuals who signed up to speak this evening.
I signed up. What about Mr. Ramos?
Mr. Ramos, I believe your name was called and
We'll let him speak. He's here.
well, he can speak, but I'm just saying that if I called him earlier.
Okay.
My name is Rafael Ramos, R-A-F-A-E-L, R-A-M-O-S. I'm here to suggest a common sense way to lower the bills, the rates that CalAm is charging. CalAm asks for a 9.2% return to its investors. That rate of return should be closer to 3.5%, which is the rate for a 30-year Treasury bond, or 1.5% for a 10-year Treasury bond. CalAm cannot lose money. That has been shown several times. They even get a rate increase when we don't even use enough water. That money that is saved from the return to the investors could be used to lower rates. the rate of return to investors is even better than a 30-year bond because the basis upon which the rate of return is calculated increases every 3 years. And so, I would ask that the rates be lowered based on a lower rate of return to investors. Secondly, that unnecessary capital expenditures be denied. For example, the desalination plant. Your Honor, Gerald Kelly, there is probably an opinion or a regulation somewhere that the utility must source water for the most readily available and cheapest source. Please look it up. Pure Water Monterey is the most readily available and cheapest source of new water. With lowering the rates for the return on investors and having the Commission require that Cal-Am use the most readily available and cheapest source of water, I think we can lower rates. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that hasn't signed up that would like to speak? That concludes the public comments for this evening.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
Gentleman right here.
Okay, so come on up, sir.
Hello, I'm Trevor Shapiro. It's TREVOR SCHAPIRO. And I would like to say that now I have been a lifelong resident of the Monterey Peninsula, and I have seen water rates going nowhere but up at an exponential rate. And for those that are the younger generations that want to stay here and are residents that want to move here, that want to have an affordable living, please take that into consideration when you think about the decisions you make for those not just that are older and have lived here their whole lives, but for those who grew up here, want to stay here, and for those who want to move here. I reserve my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Last call. All right, Commissioner, closing remarks?
Thank you. I do want to thank everyone who attended tonight, and some folks probably had to leave and go home to families and so forth, but do convey to your neighbors and your friends who are here our deep appreciation and thanks. I am very impressed and gratified by the activism of this area. It's really remarkable. Because we have been all over California, and this is our second to last public participation hearing. To take time out of your evening and spend it with us, and to have done your reading and your research, it's really important. So I do want to express my appreciation and to assure you that we will be reading through everything very carefully, looking at the calculations very carefully, and the conclusions of fact and law in going forward with Judge Kelly on a proposed decision. Forget some months from now, right? I think there's still some hearings and whatnot.
Hearings are scheduled, like I indicated, in March, so the decision is probably scheduled at the end of this year.
So thank you very much.
So, if you were too shy to speak and still want to make comments, you can do so by sending them to the Public Advisor's Office, which is public.advisors@cpuc.ca.gov. On behalf of myself and the 5 commissioners, I do appreciate the fact that you came out here tonight to speak to us. I know there are so many other things that you probably would rather be doing in an evening, and so I do appreciate the fact that you came out here. Thank you very much, and we are adjourned.
Yeah.